Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White, and I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. We have a question here, a question, C-R-E-S-T-I-O-N, a question. We have a question here from YouTube user Chris Faust 64, who asked us, is it worth paying $5,000 to have an attorney send out a demand letter? The attorney said whatever money I might retrieve would be mine. There is no contingency fee. Okay. So listen, all demand letters are not created equal. Let's get that out of the way right off the bat. If this attorney is sending like a 2-paragraph boilerplate demand letter, man, my hair is poofy today. This attorney Shear, he's sending out like a boilerplate letter like, hey, this person has claims. It's a claim for X. And we want you to give us money or else. Just a very simple demand letter. Well, that's going to take that attorney 20 minutes. Probably. Because they already have that letter. Probably. And let's be real. $5,000 for 20 minutes worth of work. Not great. Not a great deal. Now, it's possible that that's not what this attorney's doing. It's possible that this attorney's actually going to put a tremendous amount of work in and do like a fully built out narrative portion explaining line by line what was done to you and how the claims stack up and the right and wrong of it. And you're going to get this voluminous, powerful, impactful letter of demand laying out how you will decimate the defendant in a future lawsuit. And then they might further get on the phone with opposing counsel when opposing counsel responds to the letter and negotiate on your behalf. And they might spend hours doing that. But even then, for $5,000, that's tough because I happen to know there's a lot of firms in the country, some of the best firms in the country, some of the most expensive firms in the country, that would handle the entirety of your Equal Employment Opportunity Commission filing, the creation of the narrative, the crafting of it into a complaint, working with you on settlement negotiations, going with you to the mediation, reviewing your position statement, working with you on your response to the position statement, crafting the rebuttal for you, the fact-finding conference, all of it, and maybe more, maybe even the federal litigation. And I happen to know there's firms on the national level, more than one firm that would do all of that for $5,000. And though 40% or whatever it is, whatever the percentage is, somewhere between, 35 and 40% of whatever they win for you, right? Now, I guess you're asking me is like just the letter for $5,000 with no contingency. Is that a good deal? Is it just the letter or are they negotiating for you? Like when the other side calls to negotiate, who picks up the phone? Is it you, the plaintiff, the person with the claim? That's not good. That's not good because they're not going to take you seriously. Is it the attorney? Is the attorney going to do a good job with no stake in the case? I don't know. How many hours are they going to spend, right? Like I do think there's a value to the greed motive of a contingency. I was talking about this today with an attorney that I was potentially looking to hire, who was like, "Listen, I want to work on cases where I can make money. I want to really dig in. I want to put the hours in to maximize what I can win." And I was like, "You are saying all the right things, right?" And that is how I feel about it. Like to get an attorney to really, really dig in and care and work and build and reduce risk and maximize the value, right? You can't do it for $5,000. You can't. It's not going to happen. At least not in a jurisdiction I'm aware of. Maybe there's some destitute attorney or some, youthful, inexperienced attorney who would go hard in the paint for you for $5,000. Maybe it could happen, but it's generally not the case. It's going to be hard to find. So I guess what I'm saying here is this. Listen, it's hard to say if $5,000 to just write a letter with no contingency is a good deal. My initial reaction is hell no, but let's be a little more nuanced than that. If it's just a boilerplate letter, if it's just a quick, hey, you did bad things and you should pay up, no, that's a terrible deal. If it's a pretty good letter with a good narrative and kind of, compelling language and it's forceful and this and that, but there's no negotiation attached, they're not gonna go to the mat for you and negotiate the deal for you and review the settlement agreement for you, right? If none of that's included, I would still say not a good deal. Now, if you're paying an attorney $5,000 and they're writing you the sun, the moon, the stars of letters, this letter is amazing. It's incredible. It makes people weep and quake in fear, right? And then they're going to handle the negotiations for you fully. Start to finish, they're going to communicate with you. They're going to communicate with the other side. They're going to be forceful and aggressive and pay attention to detail. They're going to reduce risk. They're going to add value. And then when you direct them, you and only you, because you must be the boss. You are the person who's been wronged. When you direct them that a settlement has been accepted, they handle the settlement agreement for you. Is that a good deal for $5,000 with no contingency? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of hours. I worry that they might not want to spend all the time you might want to spend negotiating. They might not want to have 30 calls with the other side. They might not want to review and revise the settlement agreement 15 times, right? Like, I worry about that. But if they do all the things, could $5,000 with no contingency be a good deal for you? I don't know. I'm doing the math in my head. Assuming you got a nice settlement, we'll just pick a random number. Let's say you got a $100,000 settlement. Well, you've just kept, somewhere between $33,000 and $45,000 in your pocket, depending on whatever that contingent percentage might have been, whatever firm you were dealing with, right? And that's pretty good. I like that for you. I like that you're keeping all of your $100,000. That's nice. Listen, you're paying taxes on it, but that's between you and the government. It's got nothing to do with the attorney. So, in that scenario, in that very particular scenario, is it a good deal? Yeah. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. What if this attorney, you get lucky, this attorney's amazing. This attorney is going to the mat for you. Really, really going hard in this letter. Really negotiating. And the other side comes back and says, okay. We're willing to pay you $20,000, but you want $100,000. We're not going to pay you $100,000. And I think we're going to have to call your bluff. Go ahead and file. Well, you didn't hire anybody to file. You paid $5,000, but you don't have a filing. You got nobody to file for you. You're going to have to file for yourself or pay somebody else more money or pay the same attorney more money. I don't know, right? And that's tough because I happen to know some of the best employment firms in the country, some of the most expensive employment firms in the country. Well, they might charge you $5,000 up front. There's a bunch of them that do. But they're going to do the entirety of your federal EEOC. They're going to work with you on that demand letter. They're going to negotiate for you. And if the case settles, great. They're going to do a settlement agreement. But if the case doesn't settle, they're going to go ahead and they're working on the narrative with you, getting your timeline correct, getting it right in shape so it's the most compelling document it can be. And then they're going to go ahead and make that a filing. They're going to file that on the federal level for you or the state level, depending on what's most tactically sound for you, right? The best option. And then they might go with you to mediation. if the mediation happens. They'll continue to handle negotiations for you. They'll do damages calculation. They'll game out settlement tactics with you, right? They'll be gathering evidence. They'll be reducing risk. They'll be adding value. And then your position statement comes in, the response from the other side, and they're going to go over it with you. They're going to help you fashion your responses to the position statement and get them to your attorneys. And then your attorneys are going to work on a rebuttal, right? Your response to the employer's position statement. And they're going to go ahead and finish that rebuttal for you. You're going to review it. You're going to approve it. And they're going to file it. They're going to go to a fact-finding conference with you. And at some point, they might come to you and they might say, hey, let's take your case to federal litigation. You don't have to pay us anymore. Let's go. We've got our percentage, whatever it is, 33 to 50%, depending on what the firm is charging you, and that's between you and your firm. We'll assume it's 40%. Okay. Hey, this EEOC is going great. We love the case. We love working with you. Let's go to federal litigation. Let's go to the big show. Or, you got arbitration agreement. Let's go to arbitration, right? Well, that contingency bought you a lot, didn't it? Right? I mean, sure, you paid $5,000 up front, just like that first attorney we were talking about. But that profit motive, that kept that firm, that team of attorneys working for you through the entire process. Laying out expert witness fees, bringing in vendors as needed, covering expenses, potentially, right? And when you compare that $5,000 and 40%, and what it buys you, that 40% can be a lot of money, right? If let's say you get $1 million in settlement, well, that firm at 40%, they're pocketing, $400,000. You lost $400,000. I guess you didn't lose it. You paid it. You paid $400,000 to this firm to go out and get you a settlement of $1 million, of which you're going to pocket $600,000. And they did do everything. They helped you every step of the way. And that's not a bad deal. Although many of you will say 40% is too much. Great. Wherever you are, I hope it's lower, right? I hope you find a really good attorney who does a really good job at a really good percentage. But I see a lot of 40% in the world today, in the market. And it's hard. It's hard to say $5,000 for someone to write you a letter and do some amount of negotiation. You don't even mention it. I'm assuming they're going to negotiate for you, but some amount, a couple hours maybe. Maybe not. Maybe even less. I don't know. For $5,000. Or you can pay some of the best firms in the country $5,000. And they'll do everything. They'll do the letter. They'll do the entirety of the agency filing. They'll do the entirety of the federal litigation. They will fight that case to the bitter end. Multiple mediations, multiple depositions, discovery, multiple dispositive motions, right? I mean, they'll do so much. They'll invest hundreds upon hundreds of attorney hours for that same $5,000, but with that contingency. It's a tough call, right? It kind of is. And I'm not trying to be funny here. Like the $5,000 with no contingency, if it goes well and you get a settlement and you're happy with the settlement, it's great because you didn't pay a contingency. You didn't pay a percentage. That's great. The risk is if you don't get the settlement you want, great. Now you're going to have to hire a firm and you're going to have to pay again, potentially. Not necessarily. You might find a pure contingency firm, but there's not as many pure contingency firms out there as there used to be, depending on the jurisdiction, depending on the market. There's a couple in New York. There's a couple. We've had one of them on the channel. I think Marjorie Mesdor is taking cases in a pure contingency in New York, right? She's a great attorney. I don't know how many cases she's taking right now. I don't know how much her bandwidth is, but you can give her a call and try to hire her and see if she takes the case, right? But there's no guarantee you're going to get a pure contingency attorney, depending on where you are, depending on how busy the pure contingency attorneys are, right? So it's $5,000 for a letter. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, listen, I got to be honest. If we're family at the dinner table, just chit chatting about this, and you're like, "Hey, Vince, I know you didn't want to handle my employment case because I'm your family. You don't like to represent family, but can you take a look at his retainer for me? This lawyer, this guy wants $5,000 for a letter." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, don't hire that person. That person's no good." Now, that's just me talking at the dinner table with my hypothetical family member, right? But we spent a lot of time establishing, listen, for that $5,000, somebody could do a good job. Theoretically, it could be a great deal. If everything goes just right, and the attorney does everything right, and the settlement happens, and it meets with your approval, and you don't have to file, then it was tremendous. It's a lot of ifs. A lot of things that have to fall into place for that to be a good deal. And that is fundamentally the part of this that makes me nervous. Also, I am of the opinion that there are more mediocre and bad attorneys in the world than good attorneys. That is my experience with our industry especially, but with the attorneys in the world in general. There are many, many more mediocre and bad attorneys than there are good attorneys. And that doesn't make the odds of you spending $5,000 for a letter and getting the sun, the moon, the stars out of it that high, in my estimation. So I'm nervous about that. Now, listen, you might know this attorney, or you might have this attorney been referred to you. People vouch for this attorney. This attorney is tremendous. Tremendous, right? They do all the work. They make it happen, right? It's possible. And that's a different story. At that point, with the client testimonials and people you care and trust telling you that this went great for me, or this is the attorney, this is the she is amazing, he is swell, like whatever it is. Great. That's a lot of trust building, I can see it at that point. But in general, there is an attorney that you do not know from Adam, and they are saying to you, just give me $5,000, I'll write a letter. I would generally say that you should walk out that door. That is just my thought. Just my thought. I know it took a long time getting here. I wanted to cover all the options, the whole spectrum of what could happen and what could be provided for that $5,000. If you don't know them, I'm very uncomfortable. Anyways, if this was helpful, like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how the contingencies are too wild. Tell me, give me your thoughts. People are always pitching graduated retainers, like, oh yeah, I'll pay you $5,000 for a letter, and then if you got a file, you can have your contingency. And listen, firms aren't really interested in that most of the time. And I it's interesting. If you've got a good case, and I'm assuming you've got a good case, right? I don't know anything about your case, but I'm assuming. Why is that attorney like, yeah, just give me $5,000? Okay. Do they not believe in the case? Do they just really need $5,000? Why don't they want the contingency? Why isn't that part of the deal? I guess I just have questions, right? Anyways, let's chat below. I'd love to follow up. I will track the comments down below as they come in, so we can have a back and forth conversation about this. And hope you're all having a great week. Take care.